Holistic connection. Let's heal. Holistic connection. Let's learn. Holistic connection. Let's grow. Holistic connection. Let's be real.
Hello, everyone. This is PamelaTopjian, your host for Holistic Connections, Conversations with Holistic Practitioners. And today we have Lynn B., and I want to welcome you and ask you to please introduce yourself and share what you do in the holistic healing space.
Hey, Pamela, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. So my name's Lynn B. That's B-E-E, like Bumblebee.
Yes.
Um, I am a psychedelic integration coach. So most of my work delves into helping people prepare for the psychedelic experience and then helping them to integrate and ground the insights they had in these spaces into a way that actually can kind of make sense in their daily life. Something that really becomes tangible as opposed to, oh, wow, I had that really far out experience. That was crazy. That was cool, but I don't know what to do with it now. A lot of people that miss that integration, it's like that's exactly what it becomes. It just becomes this wild story that they have.
Yeah.
But they don't always know how to fit that piece into their bigger life. So that's primarily what I do.
Yeah. Yeah. Because real life is totally different than that one experience. So, yeah, that's great. That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
integrating that is, I mean, the whole reason for doing it is to integrate it, right, into your life.
You would hope. You would hope. Yeah. I mean, there's definitely something to be said about psychedelic tourism and thrill seeking, and I
Yeah.
wouldn't say that I'm necessarily opposed to that
Hmm.
if safety and like fully
Right.
informed consent comes into play. But most people going into these spaces these days are doing so for they're looking for some kind of trauma healing or
Yeah.
relief from some kind of like psychological symptomology that they're having.
Yeah.
Um, and so it can really help to have a framework in and around that experience to help them maximize the benefits of that.
Yeah. So, how did you first become interested in doing this type of work?
So this really kicked off with my own journey. So I, where do I start?
Yeah.
So, a number of years ago, I was looking for healing in my own life. I really struggled with identity throughout my teens and 20s, and part of that really manifested as clinical depression.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, part of that really manifested as clinical depression. And that all kind of came to a head in my mid 20s. I had spent my earlier 20s kind of as a party girl, trying to find
Hmm.
myself in substances, alcohol, ungrounded relationships, and decided that I wanted to turn over a new leaf in my life. My initial decision to do that was to get into wildland firefighting and become
Wow.
certified as an EMT.
Yeah.
Um, so that was kind of my initial attempt to get it all together. And while that was still an amazing experience and I learned a lot, that change I made in my life didn't really address what was going on underneath that.
Yeah.
And so I found myself working these fires and in medical support, largely in these solitary positions and quite miserable. And I had definitely stumbled across psychedelics many times
Hmm.
throughout my party days.
Sure.
I've dabbled in the rave scene quite a bit.
Mhm.
So I had noticed in the past that my experiences with like psilocybin, LSD seemed markedly different than other substances in that they seemed to turn me on to something in myself.
Hmm.
And that after these experiences, I seemed to feel better,
Hmm.
as opposed to having this come up and then this like crazy crash out. So I knew there was some potential with psychedelic medicine there, but a lot of this was before it became popularized.
Yeah.
So still this kind of taboo thing, like, oh, you're just doing drugs. I eventually started experimenting a little bit on my own with like creating like a ceremonial container. And
Mm.
mind you, I had like no experience of like how to really do this, but I think I did all right. So I had started kind of creating these like ceremonial spaces for myself in which I would take mushrooms or LSD and maybe rent like a primitive cabin for a few days, go into
Wow.
it with meditation session, yoga, doing some reflective tarot reading as a part of that, and had realized that had really helped me. However, when you're holding space for yourself like that, there's only so far you can go. And mind
Yeah.
you, at this point, I was experienced enough. I wasn't like going into it for the first time, so I kind of knew what
Right.
to expect. But a little disclaimer, I'm not going to recommend people take
Right.
psychedelics.
Yeah.
They really, unless they really know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Um, but at this point in my life, when I was working fire, I was just super depressed. I hit a wall. I felt
Hmm.
like I had tried to make all these changes to better myself, and I just still felt back at square one.
Yeah.
And I was listening to actually a podcast one day where they were interviewing the guest about their ayahuasca experience, and it
Mm.
all just kind of clicked. I was like,
Yeah.
oh, that's what I want to do. I had had previous experience in my personal life of navigating the more clinical Western healthcare system,
Yeah.
and I don't want to dog on it because it really did help me at that time of my life, and it helps a lot of people. Um, but where I was at that point, I wasn't sure if that was what was really going to help.
Yeah.
So when I heard this person's story about working with ayahuasca, I was like, yes, having this container in
Hmm.
which people who have that experience of holding that ceremonial space, in which shamans and maestros have that expertise of
Hmm.
really cultivating a space in which their participants can go deep, that really called to me. So as soon as I got cell phone service, I like booked my first ayahuasca retreat, and within a month I was in Peru.
Wow. Wow. And so you're in Peru right now, aren't you?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I did
That's
leave and go
amazing.
home initially. Um,
Yeah. Didn't just
yeah,
stay.
I didn't just stay. I did stay quite a while.
Yeah.
I stayed about 5 months working with ayahuasca intermittently during that whole
Hmm.
time. And then just about coming up on 3 years ago, I made the decision to move here permanently. And that's when I started to get more into facilitation work.
Yeah.
So initially, I was living and working in a couple different projects. The most notable was kind of a grassroots ayahuasca project, a little bit off the beaten path.
Hmm.
So most of the people coming through were kind of vagabond hippie types
Hmm.
that were doing permaculture volunteering in exchange for ceremonies they might not have been able to afford
Wow.
otherwise. So I was living really primitively out there,
What an
supporting that.
experience. Yeah.
It was pretty amazing. It was like just to highlight how primitive it was an hour boat ride down the Amazon River, and then you get off in a village of like 300 people who only barely got solar power about a year ago. And then from there, you take a machete and your wading boots and you hike 30 minutes into the raw jungle, sometimes wading up to like thigh-high water. And we were like cooking on fire, washing our dishes with the ash. Like sometimes thousands of ants would overtake the house. Like, not to get too off track here,
Yeah.
but I just paint the image. Like
Yeah.
it was a true jungle
Yeah, you're
experience.
painting a picture. That's great. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the first thing I thought of was, oh, the bugs, you know.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Dogs are definitely a deal breaker for a lot of people.
So I want to mention how self-aware for a young woman who had been kind of in the party scene, tried different things, mainly for the fun of it, and then you realize that, hey, these psychedelics might be more healing and not just like an escape. To me, that's amazing that you were so self-aware to notice that and then look into that more. And then to try to set up your own like little container in your space for I'm going to do this as a healing modality for myself. And so you had mentioned before you knew anything about people really doing this in a healing sort of a space. So were you facilitating that for other people as well? Like your friends or anybody that you knew was going through things? I mean, before you got any kind of training in it and you were doing this for yourself, did you say, "Hey, I know that you're going through something and I'm setting up this weekend or whatever, however you did it." Did you also invite other people to do that with you at that time?
Not so much in that kind of way.
Okay. Yeah.
I was just not at that place in my life where I would have been able to or comfortable to consciously hold space for other people. I certainly definitely just like ran off into the woods and took
Yeah.
mushrooms with friends sometimes, but
Hmm.
not so much in this like held container where we're really gonna look at like something deeper underneath.
Yeah.
I will say though, having been someone that spent a lot of time in party scenes,
Hmm.
people did naturally tend to gravitate towards me,
Mm.
just kind of hanging out in the corners of the party, like by the bonfire or
Yeah.
wherever, and just in their own catharsis would just kind of start to open up about
Mm.
what they were going through in their life.
Yeah.
And I've always found that I tend to just have like an intuitive ear in these
Yeah.
spaces. I'm not really easily shocked
Yeah.
by what other people have to say about what they've been through.
Hmm.
And I find it genuinely interesting to hear somebody's story. I would say that when I was younger, I really struggled with small talk.
Yeah.
Um, as I've gotten older and matured a little bit, I'm like, okay, like I can vibe with it now. Like,
Yeah. Just roll
but
with it. Yeah.
I can roll with it. Like I'm a lot more amendable, I think,
Yeah.
as I've gotten older. But I I always just wanted to go deep. And
Hmm.
I felt that just in my own life experiences and the environment I was raised in, that was really lacking. So
Hmm.
that like cultivated this really strong interest to go there with people. And when people wanted to go there, like I was always game. Looking back, it feels like there's been kind of this natural transition into now holding space for my clients,
Yeah.
holding space when I'm working as a guest facilitator for retreats.
Hmm.
Uh, it just feels very innate to me. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, nice. Are you coaching people through the experience while they're in the experience, or is it coaching them before and coaching them after, and is some of it online, or is it all in person, in groups, or one-on-one, or how do you do that?
The bulk of my coaching practice is one-on-one online.
Oh, okay, okay.
And so ideally, people come to me before they enter into a
Yeah,
psychedelic space, just so they can get a little bit of preparation and a
yeah.
little bit of foresight as to what might come up,
Mm-hmm.
those tools on how to navigate that space.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will do work with them post integration to really help them not just understand the specific experience, that can be an important part of it, but to
Mm-hmm.
just kind of understand their own relationship and how it with their environment and how it's shifting in that post period space.
Yeah.
So that's the bulk of my coaching practice. However, I do occasionally work as a facilitator for various
Okay.
retreats. I'm just a guest facilitator, so they're not my retreats per se,
Yeah.
but I do hold space in ceremony alongside those who are serving medicine to just ensure safety,
Sure, sure.
to it coach someone through a difficult experience if they need that. We do
Yeah.
try to generally be hands off so that people can just have that space to go into their own process without interference.
Yeah.
However, some people will need to be a little more hands-on just for
Yeah.
their own safety emotionally and physically. So I have done that. And as part of those projects, I also do some preparatory exercises, mostly around like breath awareness, somatic
Mm-hmm.
awareness, as well as post-integration circles.
Yeah. What are some of the misconceptions or the biggest misunderstandings about it all?
One of the biggest misconceptions I would say that I see a lot in the psychedelic space is that you have to have a visionary experience in
Mm.
order to have a healing experience.
Mm.
That's pretty common here in Peru as well as ayahuasca tourism continues to boom. A lot of people hear about these things. They want to come here and they want to know what it's like to have this visionary world open up for them. And that happens a fair amount of the
Yeah.
time. But there's also people who have a lot of experiences where nothing classically psychedelic really happens. And they might just feel different sensations in their body. They might feel different emotions they haven't been in touch with for a while. They might even just feel kind of confused. But that does not negate the effects that the healing effects that this medicine can have
Hmm.
on someone's life in the weeks to come, if approached, of course, with respect and the proper education, as ayahuasca is contraindicated for some individuals. But for majority of people, regardless of whether they had this crazy astral experience or they just kind of felt a little bit like they were just sitting on their mat in the dark,
Yeah. Like a
um,
meditative state, maybe almost.
a meditative state,
Yeah.
or even, I mean, you might even have a ceremony where you're just bored. You're like,
Mm.
what's happening, you know? And that can be somewhat of a common complaint as well,
Mm.
is that people are like, oh, I didn't feel anything.
Right. I want my
But,
money back.
right,
Nothing happened.
right. Right, but it's like there's still this window of neuroplasticity that takes place after these psychedelic experiences that can really suspend you from maybe not so serving thought patterns or behavioral patterns that you've adapted to, maybe because of trauma or stress in your life.
Mhm.
Um, so regardless of what happens in the psychedelic container, you still have this opportunity to more easily make those changes that you want to see in yourself for quite a
Yeah.
bit of time afterwards. It differs depending on the psychedelic substance,
Hmm.
but for ayahuasca, for example, it can be about 4 weeks where
Okay.
things are still mentally quite fluid.
So when you're working with people and you're coaching people after their experience, do you want them to wait a certain amount of time before they have a first session with you?
I would say it's really tailored to the client.
Okay, yeah.
Some of my clients are coming to me and they've never worked with a psychedelic before at
Yeah.
all. And if they are coming to me before they decide to go into ceremony or before their scheduled ceremony,
Hmm.
then generally we will agree to maybe just have a little check-in. That
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily have to be a full call. They might just send me like a voice memo or a text. I
Hmm.
might just check in on them in the day
Yeah.
say, hey, like, how are things going for you? Do you want to make a note of anything that we might bring up later, just so they don't forget while everything
Yeah.
is so fresh and open? And then really it's like as they return to their home, some people have these extended retreats, some people maybe are just going to a ceremony or a psychedelic therapy session that
Hmm.
night. As they start to feel a little more grounded, is when we'll start to really do the work.
Yeah.
So for some people, that can look like meeting once a week. It could look
Hmm.
like meeting more than once a week.
Hmm.
And then for other people who maybe have been working with psychedelics for a while but are still looking for that ongoing support, they might not need to check in that often.
Yeah.
Um, that might be more of like an ongoing coaching relationship if there's somebody who where psychedelics are more of a regular part of their life or
Yeah, that makes sense. So, what would you like people to know who's never had an experience? What kind of advice would you give them for somebody that's just, or maybe they're watching this or listening to this and they're thinking, I didn't realize that it could be such a healing experience. What kinds of things will this potentially help with, as well as maybe a bit of advice for them?
I would say to always be prepared for the unexpected.
Yeah, yeah, it
Um,
sounds like it. Yeah.
Especially if you've never worked with psychedelics before, it can be quite an altering experience, and it
Hmm.
has the potential to put in motion a lot of change in your
Hmm.
life. wouldn't want to frighten anyone away from psychedelics when I say that, but I would say that be prepared to maybe want to make some changes in your life prior to this experience,
Mm,
as it's likely to connect you with pieces of yourself that you haven't explored or have long been forgotten. And as you start to explore your relationship with those previously fragmented pieces, they're going to ask to be expressed. They're
yeah.
going to ask to be expressed in your life. So I would say that the best way to really maximize the benefit of that is to start doing the work before the psychedelic experience. Start working with an integration coach or a therapist, somebody who has some awareness around what these spaces can look like, and start to look at what is already kind of been at the fringes of your consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
What has kind of been in the background that maybe you've been ignoring for a few years, and just to see like what wants to emerge. Really start like exploring what it is that's at the fringes of your consciousness that's asking to be seen. You know, a lot of people might be operating with some kind of emotional wound,
Mm-hmm.
or even a painful memory,
Sure.
or a coping mechanism that's maybe causing harm in their life, and they could be operating in this mode for years.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not prepared to be fully confronted with that, it can be quite jarring and even ungrounding for
Mm.
that to come up in a psychedelic
Yeah.
experience. I
Yeah.
would say really getting clear on what you want to work on,
Mm-hmm.
and as best you can.
To talk to somebody beforehand to get some clarity on that if you're not sure or you've never had an experience before. Yeah, that might be a good time to
Yeah,
contact you. Yeah.
yeah, or to like just to start to develop more of a relationship with that thing that's likely to come up.
Yeah.
So looking at what these triggers are, looking at these moments in your daily life that really unnerve you, that really get under your skin.
Yeah.
Then from there, when I work with clients, I really bring in a lot of somatic awareness and breath awareness tools to help them start to navigate what are already difficult
Mm-hmm.
experiences that just come up on the weekly, in a more conscious, direct way.
Yeah.
And that ultimately can help to prepare you for the psychedelic mindset so that as things come up in potentially a more intense way, you have a
Mm-hmm.
little bit of skill set already developed.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing I think can be really helpful is some people will come in with a really specific goal.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they have a bad habit or even an addiction that they're hoping this experience will help them to move beyond. Working in establishing good habits and breaking those habits that aren't serving beforehand can kind of give you just a little bit of like a bounce board,
Yeah. Yeah.
a little bit of a push
Yeah.
so
Like a
that when you
catalyst for it. Yeah.
exactly, so that when you have that window of neuroplasticity afterwards, that it really starts to like bake in that
Yeah.
this is a new way of being that you're stepping into.
Yeah. Yeah. So interesting. So let's mention your website and where the best place is for people to reach you. You're on Facebook and Instagram.
So the best place to reach me is through my website, wholesoultransformation.com. And then my Instagram handle is at wholesoul.linby.
Okay. Okay. So we'll put all your links below in the description box. And is there anything else that you want to make sure people know or make sure that we share before we end this today?
Yeah, so I wanted to share a bit about an upcoming project of mine. In June, I will be launching a free online support group for people who've had traumatic psychedelic
Nice.
experiences. I felt that this is a need that is currently underserved in the space. There's a lot of exciting potential for the healing effects of psychedelics. However, sometimes people go into these experiences unprepared for
Yeah.
what will happen. And there hasn't been a lot of room to really discuss that. So, yeah, I've
Yeah.
created a group. It's donation based, but no one
Oh,
will be
nice.
turned away for lack of funds. And that's going to be on a monthly basis starting June 11th from 4 to 5:30 Pacific time.
Yes.
So if anyone's interested in signing up for that space, I would just encourage them to continue to check my website at wholesoultransformation.com
Okay.
and just sign up for email notification.
Nice, nice. Yeah, and I agree with you. I have not heard of that before, so I think that that is something that is really underserved and much needed. So it'll be interesting to see just how much this takes off and how many people that sign up for that.
Yeah, I have had people come to me who have even had psychedelic experiences many years ago.
Right.
This can happen either in a space, such as like a ceremony. Maybe the
Mm-hmm.
container is not very held, or maybe the container is fine, but they just weren't prepared for what they were going to experience.
Yeah.
It's also pretty common that I have clients reach out who maybe they took something at a party or
Mm-hmm.
something was given to them that they weren't aware they were taking.
Yeah.
Um, and they had this really opening, but also chaotic experience in
Yeah.
a place that didn't feel safe or supported. I think that, especially in the plant medicine community, there can sometimes be this consensus where people can almost be unintentionally disvalidating.
Mm.
They'll say something like, the medicine always gives you what you need, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, maybe you should go try more.
Mm.
There may be some threads of truth to those things for some people,
Yeah.
um, but I think it's really important to honor where someone's at. And if
Yeah.
they're still feeling like really unnerved by that experience,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's important to have a place in which you can unload that without feeling any pressure or feeling like any judgment, like you did it wrong.
Right, right, right. Or maybe embarrassed or ashamed that something's wrong with me because this didn't work for me. And all you hear about is all the positive and amazing experiences everyone has. So maybe some shame around it that they feel like something's wrong with me, that this didn't really have the same effect for me. So that's great. Yeah. So thank you so much, Lynn. I am so excited to get this out there and share you and your website and all you have to offer. And so everyone, please look at the website, look at the description below. There's so much there. And so please check it out. And thank you once again for being my guest.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pamela. It was really awesome to get the chance to speak to you today, and thank you for holding this space for practitioners to
Yeah.
show what we're doing.
Yeah,
Appreciate it.
absolutely. Thank you.